First day of pads, Coach. How do you feel about today's practice?
Not bad. Again, long go, and a lot of fundamental work, kicking work, individual work, group work. The first day is always a little rusty in pads, not as crisp, and some young guys. But again, for it to be early, the changes we made, which I don't think are major, but still changes. Position changes, not major, but still changes. Like I said, I thought we've had a good winter, and I like the first 3 days of spring a lot.
What's the biggest way that this program is different today than it was your first spring?
I think those guys, for the most part, will come to work and have a good attitude, and they have fun doing it. And so, there's once in a while you got to push certain buttons to get them motivated the right way. But for the most, I think the standard of how what we're trying to do is the standard of play. So I think, being a good guy and being a good, doing well in school and being a pretty good student, working hard, we're developing, we're getting stronger. I think we've made a lot of gains there. I think the last thing, and sometimes it comes back to you got to have the talent, or you got to continue to put them in position to make plays, but it's production, it's being able to play. And I think we're going to be much more mature. We got a lot of guys back. There's going to be competition, which is great, but at the end of the day, what's our standard of play? What's our standard of offense and defensive execution? We've made some strides, but we still got a lot to make, and I like where we're starting, but there's a long way to go, and that's the beauty of practice. And like I said, I love the new coaches we got, like the old guys we got back, like the players. We're having a lot of fun, and we'll wrap up Thursday with a good go and then give them a break. And we'll have to come back and knock the rust off after spring break and then get it going with 3 really good weeks. But good winter, and spring's off to a strong start.
You obviously, when Coach Luttrell left, it didn't take you a long time to promote Coach Johns. What seemed like obviously an obvious move, but what makes him, I guess, as good a coach as he is? What made you so sure that he was ready to be the guy?
I would have done it the first time because he was just as ready 2 years ago. I just didn't know if we were as ready as a team. Just the perception of where we're at. We didn't start out very well offensively. I think we're like 101st in the country in offense that first year. And so sometimes to get, an outside guy just from a recruiting perception, player perception, fan perception, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of reality. There's a little bit of perception. Reality, Kevin Johns has been an awesome coach, was one of the top coaches in the Big Ten coming out of Northwestern. He has been here. His kids have always played well. He's managed both those positions where I'm kind of working with him, and Carter Whitson, our GA, does a great job. So it's a collective group, but he's kind of the lead guy there. And I do think from the first year, we were very, very young, and we were probably running it and doing more gun run than gun pass, and I think that was one of the reasons to get Coach Luttrell in to kind of help sell that vision and image. It's a lot of the same stuff we did from Oklahoma, but still for Seth to be in there. But there was again, Kevin was capable and ready 2 years ago. I just didn't think we were at that place, and he'll do a good job moving forward. He'll do an excellent job.
What makes him as good as he is? What makes him as good of a coach as he is?
Very, very smart, very detailed. I think most coaches that have a chance to, if whatever a good coach is, if their kids play with, they're knowledgeable, they're smart, and I think they have great anticipation. So you can always go back afterwards and run the tape back and tell people what they should do. But I think good coaches, if they have the ability to anticipate, and whether it be in your preparation or in your installation or just in developing kids, just anticipate, where they're going to get to and the problems that come up, and be proactive rather than reactive. And the way I was raised and taught by Coach Walker years ago, that was a couple skills he always emphasized and talked about. And I think Kevin is as gifted as anyone I've been around at being a very smart guy, very detailed, but also being not a reactionary guy, very proactive in what he tries to do.
What's the biggest adjustment when you go from position coach to coordinator? And what have you kind of told him about that change when you're running a whole offense?
In our world, really nothing other than he's the guy that's writing the plays on the paper now instead of Seth. You kind of talk about it and plan it, and they're all sitting there together. And of course, James Patton coming back over to offense with his background, who's with Kevin at Northwestern and with me there and with me at Oklahoma. There's that's smooth, and Greg Fry's been with us and dealing the whole time. So that's a very, very smooth room. I've been very, very impressed with the defensive guys who actually are a little fragmented, never been together, and how smoothly they're working to get go. But I don't think Kevin's job is dramatically indifferent, other than it's always a group deal, but someone has the end say, and it's kind of between me and the coordinator of a lot of things, and now it's kind of me and him. He's always had a big voice, but Seth had maybe the final, I'd rather do this, Now, he's going to listen to James and Greg Fry, and he'll listen to Dylan, and of course we'll all collaborate, but he'll kind of have the end voice a little bit more. And that's really the only difference. It's not an ego thing. It's a group deal. Just someone at the end is ultimately, he doesn't come in saying we're doing this. He does need to weed out all the ideas. He needs to filter out all the clutter and keep us moving in a direction, because there's a lot of ideas that come out, a lot of thoughts, and a really good guy will be very proactive and entertain a lot of group information, but then eliminate the clutter and keep us moving in a direction.
You mentioned the defensive staff. What Coach Nord indicate that you would be going all 3-4, more like tweaking the defenses, multiple defense? Is that something that can really help the Hoosiers?
Oh, I mean, we got to play better defense. We got to play better as a team too. To me, there's a couple styles of structure of defense, and there's been several, which again we're going to continue. The reason we're practicing 4 days, then Coach Nord, Coach Joseph, Coach McDaniel, with Coach Inge and Coach Shelby can then take next week in spring break and kind of filter through. Go through those tapes a little bit on their own, even though it's spring break and family time, there's still some dead time, kind of make their adjustments. They have the guys in the right places, and where there's stress issues, where they can help not make it as stressful to help defenders and be sound. So you can play, you can be a 4-3 defense and be gap oriented, or have guys play 2 gaps, which means I'm trying to read you and go left or go right. You can be a 3-4 and be the same deal. You can be a 3-4 that hits gaps, or you can be a 3-4 that 2 gaps. And some of that's a little more stressful. The 2 gaps sometimes gives you a lot more potential to do things, but there's a lot more stressful. And that's with that, where there's a lot. There could be, you got to be a little bit more physically mature and mentally and all of that deal. So there's a lot of teams playing combinations of half 4-3s and half 3-4s, and you're just sliding them over. You're going from a shaded nose to kind of head up. But if you hit back to the right, you're a shade again. You're going from a 5 technique to a 4, but if you hit back to the right, you're a 5 technique again. So it's going to be interesting as he goes through how much is really true 3-4 to 2 gap oriented, or how much is it 3-4 where you're baiting them. And I made a comment the other day, it's amazing when you move a guy 6 inches how stressful it is for the line now to figure out. And one of our tackles combo the other day, and the wrong guy, and Greg said, hey, there's that 6-inch rule. That guy moved over, and now I'm blocking you instead of him, and there's an unblocked guy. So it's not confusing. It's just it's just going to be interesting to see where we go with it. I think we're off to a good start, and you guys saw us practice today, so I don't know what you saw out there, but there's 4 guys rushing most of the time. You know what I'm saying? You can blitz out of it, and there's multiple ways to blitz, and we're just starting, and there's a long way to go. I'm really more concerned with not 3-4, 4-3, and 2 gaps or single gaps, but just the standard of how hard we want to play. And if you watch anything in practice, I think they're trying to do more about that than exactly what the play call is, or you didn't run the scheme right. It's more of the effort and mindset of playing better defense, and also the effort and mindset of being a better O.
Now, you've always talked about several things, but defense especially was, I think you've always said that attitude trumps scheme. Or at least
well, and you better be sound. You got to have a high structure and gap structure, and you got to be multiple. But at the end of the day, and I think in general, for example, I think running the ball is a mindset, not a good line or a good running back. There's a mindset to playing good defense. There's a mindset to just being a good team. And we've gotten a lot better in things we can work on, is the mindset of just being a stronger, more competitive team on the field. And as we go through spring, that's what we're working on. And he'll keep tweaking his schemes, and they got great knowledge in that room with what they're doing. And I think the new coaches are all very, very good. We're talking about Coach John's strengths. I think Noah, Joseph, Bryan, and Larry all have those similar capabilities. Very, very knowledgeable, very good guys. But I just think they got quick minds and sharp minds. They stay ahead of the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys go. I think our kids are doing good. Defense is buying in. Long, long way to go. But it's going to be fun.
Regardless of how they're shaded or lined up, how do you like just the idea of having a stand-up end? Stand-up rush guy.
Yeah, I mean, they're
What did you like from that or not like that? Just watching it today.
And again, there'll be certain times where they put them down, but if you're bringing guys from both ways, that means you're dropping guys, so you can play pass. A lot of guys put the guy down, and then when they blitz, they backpedal him out. So to me, I don't. You know, it's like what's the difference between a 2-point stance or a 3-point stance for no lineman?
Right.
You know, it's easier to pass block from a 2, it's easier to run block from a 3, but you got to do both.
Right.
And whether you're putting your hand down or standing up, you got to be able to play physical and rush the passer and play run defense. And if you got a pass drop, you got to be able to drop from it. So.
You mentioned the top kicking game. What do you think about what you've got a kicker right now?
Got a very strong leg in Del Grosso, looking for timing and consistency with the snap, the hold. There's that same thing with the punt game. So to me, we're just looking. I think there's much like our team. I think there's talent there. It's just you need, if you're a good kicker, you're very consistent. You don't make a 60-yarder and then miss a bunch of easy ones. And so he's got a very strong leg. We've yet to truly kick off. That'll come here on Thursday. We put in our kickoff drills, but we'll build that team. But Del Grosso's leg's the strongest, but we're also looking for competition, and we're going to work very hard to bring in a couple walk-on guys just to have a little competition for preseason. Good? Thanks.